America is football. Football is America.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
For the moment in time, I don't give a damn.
Oh my God! No!
You love it.
It's 30 to 27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. My name is Kyle. Rick is on his honeymoon right now. So we just wanted to say, Rick, we hope you're having fun. We hope you're somewhere on the beach getting lit, doing whatever it is that you and Natalie do. I'm not going to put any words to it, but you know what I mean. Today's been a day in the NFL. The main thing today is that Saquon Barkley is the highest paid running back in the NFL. And if there was ever a guy that just absolutely deserved it, it's Saquon Barkley. I mean, you look at the kind of year that he had, and you're like, yeah, of course he got paid. But it's really interesting because the team that let him go, the New York Giants, right? And then we saw all of the stuff that came out from the Giants general manager on like, hey man, you're going to test the free market, but like, you're going to give us a chance, right? You're going to do right by us. And if you're Saquon Barkley, you're like, dude, what about doing right by me? I've been on a losing franchise. I've had a quarterback like Daniel Jones my entire career who has a winning percentage that dramatically drops off a cliff when I'm not playing. I've been the MVP of this team for the last 4 years. I haven't complained about it. I haven't shown up to work with an attitude. I've been a team player. I've done everything right that you can possibly do. And now you're saying that you're not going to pay me and you want me to do you a favor and let you know, hey, the Eagles are offering me this. Will you match it? And I don't blame Saquon Barkley to be like, no, I'm not going back there. I'm sorry. But if you want to gamble on me versus take care of me, then I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to a team that is already a winning franchise and potentially be that piece that takes them over the hump. I'll win a Super Bowl. And, after all that, then we'll look at the table and see where we're at. And he did all of those things. And the Eagles said, you know what? We're going to make you the highest paid running back in the NFL because we know how to run a franchise. I mean, say what you want about the Eagles and their fan base, but Howie knows how to be a GM. He knows how to take care of his players. And the Eagles and Barkley have agreed to a 2-year contract worth $41.2 million in new money. Ian Rappaport reported today. The deal includes $36 million guaranteed with $15 million more in incentives. The Eagles later would announce that Barkley signed a 2-year extension. So the $20.6 million new money average makes Barkley the first $20 million plus running back in NFL history. The $36 million in guaranteed money is also the most ever by a running back on a contract of 3 years or less per over the cap. Now, when you look at how significant Barkley was to the Eagles, you're like, yeah, give him that money because Barkley was the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year. And we were coming off of a year where nobody was paying the running backs, right? We saw Derrick Henry leave the Ravens. We saw Josh Jacobs leave the Raiders. We saw Barkley leave the Giants. And the year before that, nobody wanted to pay their running backs. And this whole thing with Barkley in the NFL had a low scoring year comparatively to, the direction the NFL was headed in. The scoring was down its lowest point at one point in the season since like 1998 or something. I mean, scoring was down. The running back is important again. And Saquon Barkley not only made the running back position important as far as financially, but he got to be maybe the first running back to benefit from what he's done for the position, and there will be other running backs to follow suit shortly. But this is big news for the Eagles and Barkley. And we talked about this after the Super Bowl, and we said, what's going to stop the Eagles from winning another Super Bowl? I mean, this team defensively, Cooper DeJean and Carter and Quinion Mitchell, they got all these young, talented pieces. Saquon Barkley's 28 years old, and he's clearly in his prime. He was looking at breaking the all-purpose or running back record, most yards in a season. For a large portion of the season, that was on the table. He probably could have broken it if he cared about it, but he didn't. He cared about winning a Super Bowl, which ultimately he would win. And yeah, it couldn't have gone to a more deserving player than Saquon. So congrats to Saquon. You've done an amazing thing for the running back position in general. And just to put a bow on what I was saying, the fact that the Eagles have such a young team and they're so great at drafting and they've been knocking out their drafts, it's like, well, yeah, the Eagles can repeat if they can keep the same players. Can they keep the band together? That's the main thing. And right here, right off the bat, it's like Saquon Barkley extended. Okay. The piece that got the Eagles over the hump is staying with the team. The quarterback is staying with the team. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith with the team. All of their young players on defense staying with the team. And you got to be thinking, with Vic Fangio staying with the team, the only thing is Kellen Moore taking that job with the New Orleans Saints. How is that going to affect the Eagles offensively? But besides that, things are looking pretty good for the Eagles, not just next year, but for the next couple years. I mean, they've done a good job putting themselves in this position just based on how they've been drafting and treating their players in a way where they actually want to stay with the team. Okay. Now, the Bears are trading for, and I see Nick's comment right here, don't forget the Bears scammed the Chiefs. Bears to acquire all-pro guard Joe Thuney from a trade with, sorry, I just got a message from my streaming, and it said clear up space to continue. I'm not sure what that means, but we're going to continue. Bears to acquire all-pro guard Joe Thuney from the Chiefs in a trade. The Bears promised to revamp the offensive line. That was what Ben Johnson is. That's like all the great coaches, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, any of these great coaches, they come in, the first line of business is, okay, do we have a quarterback? Yes. Okay. Do we have an offensive line? No. Okay. Well, let's get one. Because as you know, the most important thing is buying the house. But then the second most important thing is getting the insurance on the house. And that is what the offensive line is. All of the great quarterbacks, head coaches, all of the great head coaches get it. The Bears are expected to trade for Chiefs All-Pro guard Joe Thuney in exchange for a 2026 fourth-round pick. What? A fourth-round pick for an All-Pro guard in 2026? The deal won't be official until the start of the new league year on March 12th, but it comes on the heels of Chicago agreeing to a trade for the Rams guard, Jonah Jackson. So in 2 days, Chicago's completely revamped the interior of its offensive line, adding Pro Bowl talent who, if healthy, will massively boost the pocket in front of Caleb Williams. Nobody is going to be as happy as Caleb Williams about this. Joe Thuney's 32 years old. He's one of the top guards in the NFL. He's able to shield the pocket, blow open lanes in the running game, which was also important. You look at guys like DeAndre Swift having less than ideal season, and a lot of people point to the holes that were not available for him to run through. Now you're looking at having some actual running lanes and real quarterback protection for a quarterback that was sacked over 55 plus times. Just ridiculous numbers. Yes, some of those were Caleb's fault. A lot of those were the offensive line's fault. Joe Thuney remains honestly one of the best in the league. And to think that he's getting a new team for a 4th round pick. If you're the Chiefs, you got to be thinking, what the hell happened? Well, he's only got 1 year left on his contract. He's got a base salary of $15 million. So the Chiefs basically said, well, if we hold him for 1 more year, he's going to hit free agency and then we'll get nothing for him. This way, the Chiefs save $16 million on the salary cap with this trade because they were able to get rid of his base salary of $5.5 million before the new league year started. He could see a contract extension in Chicago that Kansas City, with its cap situation, would have probably had a hard time conjuring up. So I think it's a win-win for the Chiefs, who are like, hey, we weren't going to be able to get anything for him. Everybody knows that he only had 1 year left. Do we really want to gamble with losing a 4th round pick? But it just seems like they could have gotten more. And Nick said, in my opinion, they could have gotten at least a high 4th. Yeah, and I'm really thinking that they could have gotten a 3rd. I mean, the only thing is he's 32 years old. He'll be 33 years old. Maybe he gets injured. Maybe the Chiefs are like, okay, they're not going to give us a 3rd. Let's just take the 4th and run. Okay, so arguably a slight win for the Chiefs, depending on who they have to replace Joe Thuney. Chicago knew it couldn't enter 2025 without upgrading the interior. Ryan Poles took it to the trade market, and we wondered, is this going to be something that's addressed in the draft? Is it going to be free agency? And it looks like the nature of how this will be handled is going to be through free agency. It's kind of risky to bet on one aging guard and another who's injury prone, but Ryan Poles made the best of an iffy situation. And you might say, hey, it's a little risky to get an aging offensive line or somebody that's injury prone, but you know what else is risky? Getting a rookie to come in and start immediately. Okay. I know that we see great stories about guys like Joe Alt and, Penei Sewell. Those guys are far and few between. The chances of the Bears getting one of those guys, rare. And even if they do, it's usually a tackle. It's always a tackle. And that tackle is usually just one, right? There might be 1 or 2. They arguably needed the whole offensive line revamped. So I like the Bears going with this strategy instead of trying to strike gold in the draft like the Broncos did with Quinn Martinez. Sure, you can maybe make some of those selection as well, but you want something a little more sure than that to prevent you from being in the same situation you were in this year. But for the Chiefs side of things, moving on from Thuney, it stings. I mean, it does. I mean, after franchise tagging Trey Smith, they had a ton of cap and cash tied up on the offensive line, and trading Thuney relieves some of that. But Andy Reid's line also gets this opportunity now to get younger, and that's something that the Chiefs probably knew was inevitable that they were going to need to do. Hey, we can't pay these guys, and they're not getting any younger. So the Chiefs could move a 2024 second-round pick, Kingsley Sumateria, to guard after he struggled at left tackle as a rookie. He did struggle massively. He didn't get a lot of playing time at tackle because when he did so poorly that they just had to move him out. The trade adds another wrinkle to Kansas City's offseason. They're going to have to find answers at left tackle. That's the biggest question for the Chiefs. But with Mahomes in a front office that is very good, they've been good since Mahomes got there at finding answers, the Chiefs will always find a way to overcome. That's just what they do. But for the Bears, you got to be feeling really good about this right now. I mean, you got a new head coach that's coming in, and the first thing he's doing is taking care of business before the new league year even opens. You already got 2 of your interior offensive linemen figured out. Now you just got to, take this to the draft and maybe make some trades. But clearly, Ben Johnson wasn't wasting any time with getting this offensive line sorted out. Some 2025 NFL free agency tracking. We got the Bills. Khalil Shakur signed a 4-year extension worth up to $60 million, including $32 million guaranteed at signing. The Dolphins, the Patriots, the Jets, no major news to report, although Aaron Rodgers not going to be returning to the Jets. And that is going to be interesting. Okay. After spending 2 seasons with the Jets, he is set to hit free agency. He's expected to be released on March 12th when the new year begins, and he'll be able to sign with a new team right then after. He's going to be 41 years old, entering his 21st season actually starts, but there could be a number. That was all right. I am back. Okay. I would. All right. Bear with me 1 second. Jeez. Camo. Let's go. All right. Are we good? All right, we're a little laggy here. Sorry, my new desktop is being delivered in a week and a half, so hopefully that'll take care of it. But I'm gonna let it breathe for a second. Okay. So we are less than a week away from free agency kicking off, and what is the deal? Let me. Why is it so laggy right now? All right. We are okay. I'm just gonna power through this because I'm not sure why it's so laggy right now. But Jesus in the morning. Are we done? The hell. All right. I'm just going to go off here because I don't know what's going on with the other camera. Okay. So we are only less than a week away. Okay. The Jets already made their decision by announcing that they're going to be moving on from Rodgers. Soon, the official move will be made and Rodgers will be able to sign with the team. And rumors have started to heat up across the league about which team he could continue his career with. Rodgers hasn't really addressed the topic much, but rumors have pointed him wanting to continue his career. But we have to hear it from him before anything is confirmed. Now, the New York Giants recently have been the most talked about team in the league when it comes to Rodgers, and one of the reasons that makes sense is because Aaron Rodgers at his age, although he's not fully doing all of the packing and the moving himself with his money, it still kind of takes a toll on you to move, right? He just got to New York not too long ago. His first year was totally annihilated by an injury. Then he came back in his second year, had a less than ideal season, obviously doesn't want to retire with that being his legacy. He doesn't want to leave being remembered the way that he was with the Jets. And to me, it would make sense that he wouldn't also want to move again, which tells me that the Giants make perfect sense. I mean, we're talking about him going to the same field for home games. Okay. Is Rodgers and the Giants a perfect marriage of two parties who kind of need each other, or are a desperate disaster waiting to happen for a team that can? I think Rodgers needs to go to a team that is a quarterback away for him to actually have a shot. Going to another dumpster fire organization, sorry, Bill, is not going to solve Aaron Rodgers' problems, in my opinion. Okay. But there has been multiple sources that told NorthJersey.com that it is possible that Aaron Rodgers will be a New York Giant. All right. The situation is fluid and it's moving really fast. Aaron Rodgers appears to be as viable as any other option, certainly a possibility with free agency approaching. The Giants gave it their best shot at trying to secure a trade with the Rams for Matthew Stafford, meeting with his representation at the Combine, putting together a financial structure that would have paid the Super Bowl winning quarterback nearly $100 million over the next 2 years. A person familiar with the situation told NorthJersey.com and The Record last Friday, the Giants are not ruling out anything regarding to their quarterback pursuit, which includes Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, who visited the Giants last offseason before signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this doesn't mean that Rodgers is guaranteed to land with the Giants, but it does sound like it's a real possibility, especially when you start eliminating some of these options, i.e., Matthew Stafford re-signing with the Rams, restructuring with the Rams, whatever. He's staying with the Rams. Russell Wilson. I mean, look, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is in his prime. He's obviously not. But if you're giving me a choice between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers every single time, because Aaron Rodgers in his prime was a better quarterback, in my opinion, than Russell Wilson. And plus, Russell Wilson is just flat out not a good quarterback anymore. He's just not. Like, he'll make 1 or 2 plays a game, but no, like, absolutely not. The Jets had a terrible offensive line. I think if you can put Aaron Rodgers behind a really good offensive line, and I mean, Russell Wilson, when you watch him play, and everything that comes with Russell Wilson, and people say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers, but the paparazzi stuff, he's married to Sierra. It's a bit like, as a Broncos fan, like, we just went through all of this, needing his own office. Like, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is still a football guy. He doesn't demand that he has his own office. Sure, there's going to be a lot of people that have their opinions about him because of COVID. He became somebody that nobody doesn't have an opinion about. People either love him or hate him, depending on which news network that you guys watch. But aside from all of that stuff that's not really football related, Aaron Rodgers doesn't bring a lot of the drama onto the football field, where Russell Wilson's drama is associated with football-related things, like needing his own film room, needing his own office, needing his own, you name it, right? Catering to him in a football manner, where he is really good with the off-the-field stuff, where he's non-confrontational off the field. He's very opposite of Aaron Rodgers in that way. So I just think, okay, what are we after, though? Are we after a guy that's going to boost our PR, or are we after a guy that's going to win football games? Because if that's what it is, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson, and I'm going to have him prove to me that he's completely washed, whereas Russell Wilson has been proving that for 3 consecutive seasons, and people might still take a chance on him. We've only seen Aaron Rodgers look like he may be washed 1 year. I still like the odds for Aaron Rodgers. That's just me personally. There may be another team that has an entirely different perspective than that. For instance, Max Crosby, a very good football player who's been, unfortunately, like Myles Garrett, stuck on a bad team without a quarterback in a place where he's the best football player on the team every single year. What does Max Crosby think about somebody like Aaron Rodgers? Well, this is what he said. Aaron Rodgers joining the Raiders would be, quote unquote, legendary. Aaron Rodgers continues to have fans within NFL circles, including players who love the 4-time NFL MVP to sling passes for their club. Count Las Vegas Raiders star passer Max Crosby as one who would love to see him on the team. He said this on an episode of The Rush with Max Crosby, a podcast that he does on Tuesdays. He said, first year after an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. And by the way, this isn't just Aaron Rodgers, it's everybody. Look at everybody that's torn Achilles, and their next season is terrible. Look at Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins. All right. I mean, Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles, same injury. He looked bad last year. It's everybody. I don't care what position you play. There's something unique about the Achilles, and that is always a year 2 thing. Okay. And Crosby said, I think with all the doubt, all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, he needs to retire, things like that. He's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back and have I know he's 42 or 41, but I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town. That would be legendary. So Max Crosby, the face of the Raiders for the last 5 years, doing what he can to put out some positive PR to say, hey, we would love to have Aaron Rodgers be a Raider. And look, Aaron Rodgers, Pete Carroll, that would be an immediate upgrade over what they've had at head coach and quarterback for a very long time. And this would be making the AFC West more competitive. Is that something Aaron Rodgers wants to do? Go to the same division with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, who are an up-and-coming team, the Chargers, up-and-coming team. I don't know if the path of least resistance is the AFC West. I think he would have better luck signing with a team like the Titans and having to get through the Jags and having to get, the through the Jaguars. Okay. I mean, you would be looking at the Jags and the Texans. The Texans are the juggernaut of the AFC South, I guess, but the Colts, that would be a much easier path to the playoffs, which I think is what Rodgers ultimately wants to do. He wants to go to the playoffs at his age. It's not about the regular season. It's about the playoffs. You saw Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. It was a very similar thing. The regular season, it is what it is. We just got to find a way to get into the playoffs, and then we'll flip that switch. Rodgers is looking for a way to get into the postseason, and then we can try to string together 2 and 3 wins and close this thing. But if you go to a team like the Raiders, your chances of making the postseason dramatically decreases than going to a weak division like the AFC South. And it's not wrong-headed to believe the further the player gets from an injury, the better he'll perform. Look at Saquon Barkley, another player, devastating knee injury in 2020. One issue with the Rodgers situation is that we are talking about a 40-plus-year-old guy, not a 23-year-old or even a 34-year-old. I mean, age heals differently. Rodgers looked more mobile at times last season, giving a little bit of credibility to Max Crosby's argument, but he still played like a QB who wanted to avoid getting hit at all costs. This is something that we saw change in Peyton Manning's play late in his career. He started getting rid of the ball quick. Tom Brady was the fastest snap to thrower in his last couple years with the Tampa Bay Bucks because he doesn't want to get hit. So you start making decisions, you start playing football mentally, and you stop relying solely on your athletic abilities when you get to this point. The NFL is such a violent physical sport. The only way to survive at that age is to be playing chess and not checkers. So it will be interesting to see where Rodgers ends up, unless he surprises us all and decides, hey, I'm done. I'm just going to retire altogether. I think that would be a shocker for a lot of people, but we'll see what happens. The NFL draft is around the corner, so we are going to be heating up our draft talks. I actually will be interviewing somebody on this channel tomorrow. He is a diehard Ravens fan. His name is Darwin, and we have gotten together for a couple different collaborations over the years, but we're going to be doing it again tomorrow, something I planned. I knew Rick was going to be out of town, so I was thinking, okay, how can I do some content, to fill the void? Also, I wanted to mention this. The Eagles re-signed Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million contract. This is what I expected. The Eagles wanted to keep him off the free agent market. And I said he's not going to reset the market, but he is going to get a very hefty pay raise, and that's what he got. He is now the 4th highest paid linebacker. He's making $17 million a year by signing a 3-year, $51 million deal. Philly announced also shortly after the deal that it does include $34 million guaranteed. They gave him a 1-year, $3.5 million deal last year in free agency, and under the Vic Fangio high aggressive linebacker, the way Vic Fangio schemes his linebackers, very aggressive, and he asks them to do a lot. And Zach Bond became one of the best bargains in all of last year, period. And this is also the Eagles hitting another home run, because you bring somebody in for $3.5 million and then they win a Super Bowl with you. Their family lives there. And guess what? Now they're inclined to want to stay with you. So even if there was another team offering them the same deal, Now you're winning Super Bowls. I want to stay on a team that wins or has a chance to win. I don't want to leave. I don't want to move. I've just made friends. Like, this is what the Eagles do, man. They're not necessarily paying their players more money than anybody else. They're just making their players actually want to be in Philly. And that is the other crucial part of keeping a Super Bowl roster together, is making sure that your team is actually one that teams players want to play for. Okay. A first team all pro last year. From week 1 to the Eagles hosting the Lombardi Trophy, Zach Bond was a complete wrecking ball. He was playing a new position in Philly. He's still 28 years old. He was a Tasmanian devil, just all over the field. 3.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 11 tackles for a loss, 151 tackles. He had 1 interception, 4 passes defended. I mean, he was a very good sideline to sideline disruptor. He was as good as any sideline to sideline disruptor in the NFL last year. And Howie he hasn't been known to spend a lot of money on linebackers in the past, but not a lot of linebackers have made the kind of impact that Zach Bond has made. I mean, the GM, he knew Zach is different. In Vic Fangio's scheme, he was a roving playmaker, and it was just not somebody that was replaceable. At the end of the day, it was somebody that they needed to keep in order to have a chance to continue to dominate the NFL the way they did last year. So from giving Saquon Barkley a pay bump with multiple years left on his deal to locking down a linebacker like Bond, Howie Roseman proved to everybody out there, even analytic-based mentality people, that the Eagles are doing everything within their power to ensure that the core of their Super Bowl winning squad remains mostly intact. And that is the reason the Eagles will probably go into next season, if not the favorite to win the Super Bowl, they're going to be the second favorite to win the Super Bowl. Okay. The Raiders make Max Crosby the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, $106.5 million extension. Despite the rumors of a potential trade, Max Crosby is going to be with the Raiders. And Max Crosby is a guy that wanted to be a Raider for life. I mean, he always talked about it. And he said, today's a special day. He said at his news conference after signing the extension, being a part of Raider Nation, being here almost 7 years now, it's been an absolute blessing in so many ways. My family, obviously my wife, my daughter's here today, the sacrifice, the ups, the downs, the 5 a.m.s, the nonstop commitment to excellence on a daily basis. That is what it's all about. Now I'm just focused on being the best version of myself every single day and giving them everything I got. And look, Max Crosby, as much as I don't like him because he's a Raider, he is like one of the best football players in the NFL. The way he takes care of his body, the way he hones his craft, the way he plays. I mean, he is a game disruptor, a TJ Watt type of player, somebody that is always around the ball, somebody you have to game plan for so this guy doesn't take over a football game. I mean, the Raiders doing the right thing is not something that we say very often, but in this case, they did the right thing. Max Crosby is not at the age where it's like he's slowing down, but he's approaching that age, and that is why you see this deal is 3 and not 6, right? So I think it's a good deal for both parties, right? Highest paid non-quarterback in history, and the Raiders, they only made it a 3-year deal. So, congrats to Max Crosby, I guess. Like I said, he's a Raider, so I really wish he would have joined another team because he is so talented. But that is good news. Now, before I head off, I did want to say this. Although I'm going to be doing a lot of draft stuff in our interview tomorrow with Darwin, there was a mock draft that was just released, and I wanted to give you their first 5 picks. At number 1, the Tennessee Titans select Shador Sanders. This is not mine. This is theirs. Tennessee has all the options with the number 1 overall pick. In this scenario, second-year head coach Brian Callahan channels his Cincinnati days, seeing in Sanders some of the same qualities Joe Burrow possesses. You better, calm down with that. Look, I'm literally wearing a Colorado t-shirt right now, and I'm telling you to calm down. But still. Number 2, Cam Ward to the Cleveland Browns. Ward has been on quite the upward trajectory, going from the incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami, and the quarterback-starved Browns bank on that continuing. And Cleveland, look, I mentioned it with Rick. I said, why in the world, out of all these mock drafts, have we not seen the Browns take a quarterback? It doesn't make any sense. We know they need one. Why wouldn't they take one? If they don't take one in the draft, it's their only hope because of the money they paid Deshaun Watson. You have to take a quarterback in the draft. This is the only way around this. And all in the mock drafts had them taking the best defensive player, Abdul Carter, out of Penn State. And I'm like, dude, they need a quarterback. What are you talking about? Finally, a mock draft having the Browns taking a quarterback makes sense, okay? At number 3, they have the Giants taking Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi. The last time the Giants went all in on a quarterback from Ole Miss, well, it worked out pretty well. And if you guys don't know who that guy is, he might be inducted in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning could be a first ballot guy. I know people have not been projecting Dart to go this high, but New York has a screaming need at the position. After passing on Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix, in last year's draft, the G-men might not feel they can sit back and wait this time around. That'll be a very interesting situation. And keep in mind, we got all these pro days and things going on. We're going to be talking more about those, the results from those, whose stock is up and who's down and whatever. But it is worth noting that every year there's one quarterback that does well in the combine and his pro day, and all of a sudden he's a top 5 pick. And you're like, who the hell is Jackson Dart? All right. If you're not really into college football, then you're like, who the hell is this guy that's being Trey Lance? Right. Maybe Jackson Dart is that guy this year. We'll see. The Patriots picking Abdul Carter. The Patriots need blockers and weapons on offense to help second-year Drake May, but they cannot pass on an edge rusher like this. I mean, this is the top edge rusher in the NFL. In the draft this year, he's one of those guys. He believes he can be the best of all time. That's the way he talks. He is no doubt the best edge rusher in this year's draft, and they're right. If he does fall to 4, the Patriots, they might just have to pull the trigger. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5, which is a pick I agreed with. I said this, Travis Hunter. I see Travis Hunter going to the Jags. I keep saying it. I keep feeling it. The Jags could use Hunter full-time on either side of the ball. How would they ultimately decide to deploy him? I'm guessing primarily on offense, but Liam Cohen, we will see. I mean, he is my favorite head coach that was hired in this year's cycle, and I don't know how he would use him, but it would be very fun to find out. But like I said, we're going to be doing more draft talk, more pro day, more combine. Tomorrow is an interview with Darwin. You guys aren't going to want to miss that. That's going to be here tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned for that. As always, you guys are the best. You guys are the reason we keep doing this. It is kind of eerie, kind of weird to do this podcast without Bill. And that is something that I think we're all going to need a little time to get used to. It is really been hard on on I think everybody, but it's been hard. I know it's been hard for me, and it kind of doesn't feel real. And then, it's just that going through that process. So, um, I want to thank you guys for being here and for showing up, and just like Bill would. You guys are amazing, and I can't thank you guys enough. I really hope I see you guys in here tomorrow for the interview, because it's going to be amazing. As always, this episode and all of our episodes are dedicated to Bill and to everybody that's in the Only Football family. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I cannot stress enough how much fun we're going to have tomorrow. I will see you then. See ya.